Welcome to the Old Mac Gang podcast, or OMG for short. The show where longtime Mac and Apple users come together to share practical tips, everyday workflows, and honest takes on Apple technology. I'm Marty Gensius, and tonight we're talking about one of the best kept secrets in the Apple ecosystem. That's the refurbished market. Whether you're eyeing a new Mac or an iPad or an iPhone, but wincing at the full retail price, you should really check out the Apple Certified Refurbished store and a handful of smart tracking tools that'll get you the gear that you want with the price that you also want. And I haven't spent a lot of time in the refurbished store. We'll talk about that when we get into it, but it does seem like it has some good opportunities and good deals. And then there's also some safety recommendations I think we'll have for where and what to buy from. So let's find out who's with us tonight, and we will start with Bob.
Good evening. I'm Bob, and I'm in live casting from Tucson. And happy to be here and not in the weather along the East Coast. I'm a 70-something Mac user and a proud member and officer of the Tucson Macintosh User Group. How about you, Peter?
Yeah, I'm Peter. I'm a 73-year-old Apple enthusiast from Bay Village, Ohio, former foundryman and educator, now happily retired. I love talking gear, gadgets, and wish list items with everyone here.
And Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris. I am a 78-year-old retiree here in Tucson, also in Tucson, Arizona. And footnote, we just turned on our air conditioning for the first time this year today. It's currently 91 degrees outside at 6:06 p.m. So we're having that heat wave you all heard about in the Southwest. Glad we're not in California, though. So I've been around the Mac since 1984, and I spent a lot of time with Apple user groups. Then I got to work for Apple. Then I did some university IT and had a lot of fun with it. And now I'm playing with lots of Apple toys and enjoying various user groups. Really enjoyed the Naples mug presentation this morning, in fact. So kudos to them. And we'll pass it off to who's next? Charlie.
Pardon me if it's too loud. I'm in Houston, Texas, 70 years old, been with the Mac since 1984. That's it for me.
Okay. Well, we have got a person who's a first-time listener. This is Toledo Britt. Good evening, gentlemen. First-time listener, was told about this by your very own Charlie. And let's give a little plug for the live stream, because we stream live on Wednesday nights starting around 9 p.m. You can go to youtube.com/@oldmacgang. That's our homepage, our channel on YouTube. And like Toledo Britt, and we just had Gary Shirk come in, and he's a listener and friend too of the show. You can come in, you can chat, you can suggest things, you can ask questions in the chat, and as it'll come up, we'll try and see if we can get to those answers, if at all possible. So here's what we've got. We're talking about the refurb show, refurb store. And Bob actually came up with this idea as a good topic, and as soon as he nailed it, I said, this is really good because it has a lot of elements in it that I think would be of value to our listening group. What I want to share with you is we have a lot of websites that are related to refurbished, and I'll show them to you quickly here, maybe mention a little bit about it. If anybody else, when I finish going through them, have some comments on the sites themselves before we get into the questions, we'll take those. But there is a really nice looking Apple certified refurbished shop. This is apple.com/shop/refurbished. And again, this link will be in the show notes, and you can shop for various products. These are products that, for whatever reason, had to be, and I hope the panel will help me out with this because I'm sure I'm screwing this up, had to be reconditioned, or there might have been a problem with it not starting up, but these were returned and replaced. And then these were worked on till they became workable and factory approved in terms of it. Chris, see you got more to add.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these refurbs are what we call an open box. And somebody returned the product to Apple or for various and sundry reasons. And a lot of times they are like good as new. I mean, they may not have even been set up. Who knows? But, you know, Apple goes through these things, and each of the stores provides some sort of warranty. I'm sure we'll cover that tonight. And so that's the question, you know, and it becomes a game of, you know, I, for one, get the 10% military discount. And by the way, anybody who's ever been in the military, if you've got a DD-214, you can get the military discount, 10% on everything, including accessories. So that's something to think about. But, you know, it can be a nice discount.
So yeah, it's and this is the Apple Store. There are other stores that also do this in terms of refurb. Here's a Refurb Tracker site that allows you to check all products and get notified through RSS feeds when certain products come up. So you can do the search through that. There is a Refurb Tracker site, an Apple refurbtracker.com site. I'm not sure. I don't think this is necessarily coming out of Apple. The site looks like it's using a lot of the fonts, though. It's interesting. And then Compare Refurb is another site that will compare refurbished Apple deals and give you some ideas of what's out there and the costs that are available. A good article by MacRumors talking about our refurbished products, should you buy them, and explains what refurbished products are, and then kind of talks about how they're available from Apple. They're also available from, you know, they're available because there are fluctuations in the stock that they have. And Apple does test refurbished products to make sure that they are sound. And then there is another article from 9 to 5. Apple's refurbished store might seem like a good deal, but is that actually the case? And it talks about Amazon Renewed Premium, price comparisons between what's in the Apple Store, the Apple Refurb, and what's on Amazon's Renewed Premium, and the differences between those kinds of those two stores that you can experience. So another good article. And then this one is from MacObserver, and it talks about how to buy refurbished Apple products, savings, warranty, and what you get. So if you want some clarity on this whole process and how to buy them, how to purchase them, this is the MacObserver article. And rather lengthy, with all sorts of information that will take you step by step into looking how to purchase refurbished items. So there's a lot of good information. Again, all of these links will be in the show notes. So when this show winds up in its finished version on YouTube, you'll be able to go take a look at the show notes in this show and see the links for these various sites, so you get a little more background information. You can also find these links in the show notes of the podcast version of the show. So when we complete recording this tonight live, I'll start to work on getting both the podcast version and the edited version out onto YouTube. So it's available for you and available for you to go to these sites to find things. So we got a great comment here from Toledo Brit. I'm all for refurbs, but if I were to get one myself, I'd stick to a certified refurb on Apple's own site. I'm worried of the quality of the ones on Amazon, to be honest. Well, I have my own doubts, Toledo, and we'll get into that as part of the discussion in the notes that we have. So, guys, any other general comments before we get into the 3 questions that we have for panel discussion? I'm not seeing anything yet. I'm sure wisdom will be dripping out of your heads as soon as we ask the question and you open your mouths. So let's go with the first one. Bob is the leadoff person on all these questions because, Bob came up with the idea and I thought he's a good person to start with this. Have you ever bought a refurbished Apple product and would you do it again? Bob?
The answer is yes and yes. I've purchased several refurb products from Apple and have had a positive experience every time. I would purchase from them again because they're Apple.
Peter?
Yeah, I have not. I didn't join the Apple computer bandwagon until several years into the 21st century. And by that time, I was tending to purchase custom built, maxed out configurations, as those aren't the typical offerings in the refurb shop. But I would not hesitate to buy from there if something piqued my interest. I have visited there many, many times over the years to check out what they're offering from time to time, especially when I'm selling something or when somebody is asking me for recommendations and their budget is a little tighter, than mine might be going for the heavy gear. And I've recommended to other people many times, and I don't recall anybody being dissatisfied. I think the warranties they offer there are just excellent. So I go for it. I'm a yay refurb store.
Short answer is no, I haven't bought from the Apple refurb store, but I was at Texas A&M, and they sold refurbished machines there. Also, there's a local shop in Denver that I thought did a fantastic job of selling refurbs. But I certainly would recommend to my friends that are saying that Macs are too expensive to look at the refurb stuff.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I was realizing today that I did, way back when, get an open box offer from the university bookstore. I was in the market for one of those white MacBooks when they first came out. And it seemed to me like my net price was going to be something like $1,200, and I got it for $800 or something. I mean, it was an amazing discount. But I think the whole game with this is in terms of what's the bottom line price to you, whatever discounts you may have available, education or military versus refurb, and whether it's the machine you want and so on. Also, we're in an environment right now where there's a lot of discounting going on Amazon. And some of it sure looks like it's official Apple stuff when you get it. It doesn't look any different. So it's a game of looking at all the different options. My younger son has actually bought both from the Nikon camera refurb and as well as Apple's, and been fine with it and never had a problem.
I bought a Mac Mini refurbished. It's been a while. I think it was an Intel Mac Mini because I could fry eggs on it when I ran it if I wanted to. It was, and I don't recall the reasons I went in to get it. For some reason, I think I wanted to have a second computer and it was available and it was at a good price. And then there's another part of me that think I went in there to get it because my son didn't have one and I wanted to get him one for his setup so he'd have a better arrangement with it. I'd do it again, but not for myself. Like Peter, although he has not purchased anything from the refurbished store, he would use it for friends. I mean, I would recommend friends go through it. I don't have the patience to search for that sort of stuff in terms of finding the newest model with the kind of configurations I want and waiting on that. So that's kind of my own issue with it. But if a friend said, "How can I get a good Mac at a good price?" and they wanted to sit down and go through the Apple refurbished store, yeah, I would gladly do that. I got a question that was thrown at us from John. You guys ever check out OWC for refurb, other world computing? Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I haven't used it for refurb stuff, but my first few MacBook or my first couple MacBook Pros, I bought additional memory from them. I didn't. I bought it with a minimal memory and then added my own right away. And I later, as I ran out of room on my hard drives, I bought bigger hard drives and went in and and increased the size of my hard drive. So I found their instructions, all of my interactions with them to be very good. I would tend to trust rather than not trust them as a vendor.
Yeah, Chris, did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, one of my early managers at Apple, Steve Estrada, his girlfriend at the time, who I think later got married, did work at OWC early on in the 90s, and they're an excellent outfit. Their refurbs are good. They're well known for their docks and drives and very high quality and good prices. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to look at them. We have a similar local shop here in Tucson called Simutech, and very well thought of in the Mac community. And they occasionally have refurbs themselves, uh, and or secondhand machines that they warranty themselves. And so they're an excellent outfit, which is a good balance with our one Apple store, which is kind of remote for a lot of people in town.
Yeah, I've bought docs from OWC. Frankly, I became aware of OWC through the Mac user group because I'd start going. I mean, I would go to it, and Mac user group people would start talking about OWC. So yeah, I have bought various docs from them. I don't think I've ever been in a physical store, but I find it as a reliable source for that sort of stuff. Second question: what's your strategy for finding the best deal in an Apple refurb market, Bob?
In the past, I've just done some individual, occasional browsing and maybe come up with something that I wanted. But like has been stated before, my needs now are more than just the generic base unit and so forth. And that's why I'd like to use one or more of the services that you talked about earlier, Marty, to do that searching for me and alert me if something I'm looking for comes up. So that's how I would that's how I would go about it, and hopefully get an alert when a product that I am choosing becomes available. I
All right.
yield the floor to Peter.
Okay, well, I totally agree with Bob. In my experience, search bots are the best way to monitor and take advantage of online marketplaces. And without opening too huge a can of worms, in the past couple of years, artificial intelligence vendors have made it totally easy to roll your own search bot if you have some place or places that you want to look that are different than the ones that we put in our show notes point to. So you should take a look at AI agents if you want to make your own search bot look for just the thing you're looking for.
All right.
Charlie.
I I mentioned earlier I went to my university store that has refurbs, and there's also a particular store in Denver which we could put in the notes later if we want to. Uh, but anyway, check out local stores as well. Um, anyway, that's my thought.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to once again agree with Bob on this one. Second everything pretty much he was saying. And, like I said, keep an eye on Amazon. And if you follow MacRumors, like I do pretty much every day or several times a week, they have various, insights on different discounts that are available and special deals and such. And I think there's even a newsletter that they put out on that kind of thing. But I think, I'm also probably in a more specialized market today in terms of what I would want on a machine. But sure, I could certainly put a search out there, and I'm not in a huge hurry. So if the machine I wanted came up at a good price, but again, it's going to just be the bottom line, whatever that is. Marty?
Yeah, I everybody's agreed with Bob so far, and so in all good conscience, I can't agree with Bob, even though he's right. There has to be someone who raises his fists every once and shakes it and shouts at clouds. And in this case, I'm not the best person to answer this question. Like, what is the search strategy that I would use in the Apple Store, Refurb Store? I don't know. I've bought one item from them it's been quite a while. Not having used refurb markets, I'm now kind of go to Apple for my purchases, and I wind up paying the Apple tax. But I get to select my specs. I get to select what I want. All of that I don't have to go looking for. For me, part of the problem is with refurb stores is I go in knowing what I want, but that's not necessarily what they have on the shelf. And so it's sort of like, well, I could get that same device, but with half the RAM that I really want to buy it for. And so then I start to try to talk myself into getting less than what I intended because there is supposedly a deal there for me. I have shied away from refurb stores. I have shied away from third-party options, which is really where our next question is going to be. Apple's own refurb store versus third-party options like Black Market or Amazon Renewed, or I want to throw in things like Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. Bob is. I think this is one Bob's going to agree with me on it. But that's the question out there. Which one do you trust more and why? And any other comments you have on that? So to Bob first.
Well, with the Apple Refurb Store, you get an item that Apple treats as brand new. You get the full regular warranty, and you can add Apple Care as if it were brand new. I also think, but I haven't heard this for a while, that anything with a battery, a phone, a tablet, or a MacBook, even if it just went out for a few days to a customer and came back, they not only go through it, they replace the battery. So the battery's like brand new. So for me, I would stick with the Apple Refurb Store.
Okay.
And remembering that the Apple refurbs may not be like a used car with 100,000 miles on it. They could be review units sent out to the Apple Press, or store demo units, or units that returned almost immediately. Whenever I've gotten a refurbished unit from Apple, they always warn you there might be a little scratch here or something like that. I've never seen it as if it were new. And for all of those reasons, I would stick with the Apple Refurb Store, even if and though it is more expensive than getting Apple Renewed or something off of Bookface or Craigslist or something like that. I want it to work, and I want it to be guaranteed. I'll stick with the Apple Refurb Store.
Yeah. Peter.
All my experience seeking warranty service for myself, for family members, for friends tilts my decision to be buy it from Apple and don't buy it from somewhere else. That being said, I've bought and recommended that people purchase stuff from other places, but it's not really refurb a lot of the times. Okay, for an awful lot of the time, there are third-party options for purchasing new from Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart, and elsewhere that get you that original warranty and Apple Care, all the Apple Care options. And so I haven't and wouldn't shy away from those purchases. If you can purchase a new, genuine Apple product elsewhere to save money, I would do it. And I've taken gear purchased at Amazon myself and Best Buy to the Apple Store for repair and wasn't treated any differently than when I brought them stuff that I got right there. So I would bear that in mind. And that's really kind of what Chris was saying earlier as well. Charlie.
I trust the local stores. I don't know that I'd go to the Amazon or any of these other ones without looking at reviews and stuff. But I would definitely look at the Apple Refurb store and compare. If it's like a 10 or 15 or $20 difference, I'd probably go with the Apple Refurb.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Charlie and Bob, but I might say it just the opposite or inverse. On a third party deal, first of all, be leery of a price that's too good because it might be a scam or something. And that's where I would shy away from any of the marketplaces. Toledo Britt is saying in the chat he'd avoid the Facebook marketplace, never used it, or Craigslist or something. Um, Unless it's something where you really know the people or what's going on. So just be careful because there are perfectly straightforward good prices out there. But once again, a last plug for veterans and active duty folks: don't forget about the military discount because it's really easy to forget. So
Yeah,
back to you,
and
Marty.
yeah, also, I'll make a plug for educators because there is a remarkable education discount as long as you have some association with a university, community college. If you're a student, if you've taken a class there and you have a student ID from taking a class there, or if you're a faculty member or a teacher in K through 12 schools, all of those give you the educational discount, which is pretty neat too. I won't use refurbished markets. I used to sell my stuff to, well, there's a bunch of them. Gazelle is one, Sell My Mac is another, and other kinds of reseller markets. And first they were reseller markets, and then they became reseller markets where you could also, they started selling stuff. Now they claim these have been tested and all of that. I still am not going to purchase from them because I don't know. I'm not certain about the guarantee. For me, if there's a problem with a product that I have that I've purchased from an Apple store, or like Peter said, even if I've purchased it from another place, I can bring it into the Apple store and they will treat me this. They'll treat me if I have a problem with it. They might not do it for free and respond to it that way, but still, I know where to go and I know where I'm going to get service. I generally now have gotten into the habit of reselling my stuff to Apple when I go in. So recent purchases I cleaned up the machines. Well, I didn't even have to clean up the machines. They said don't delete the stuff off of it. I used to go in and bring in a completely factory reset kind of operating system. They don't want that. They want you to open up your computer, start it up, and they look around and they do their checks. They get the information off of it. Then they want to make sure that everything's been taken off of it that you want. And then they will take that. And that goes to the cost of the new product you're buying, and it probably becomes part of the refurbished market, if not as whole, but maybe in parts. So I do my returns through the Apple Store or get my discounts through the Apple Store and do the refurbs that way. I shy away from secondary markets. I don't do eBay, and I know there are some folks out there who love eBay and know how to work that system. I've seen and then people who are just selling it on other sellers. I've seen too many posts to Reddit of people saying, "Well, I bought this from some guy, and when I turn it on, it says that it needs to be unlocked by some company." It is either a stolen or locked hardware from some corporation or some business that person got sold, and there's nothing they can do about that except maybe contact the company and beg whether or not they unlock it. In most cases, that's a no. So be careful when you look for the best deals, unless they have kind of the strength and backing of Apple in terms of the guarantees with it. So I stay away from those things. Chris, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, Marty. In terms of the EDU market, the education market, this used to be the case that if you were a parent of a K-12 student, you might be able to get the education discount. And what I'm talking about here is if you've got like an 8-year-old who wants to get a MacBook Neo, chances are slim they're going to walk in with their school ID and
Mm-hmm.
put it on the counter and get that discount. But in some cases, now I've been retired for 9 years almost now, but it may depend on the school. Parents could certainly check with the school and with whoever the computer poobah is at that school and see if that discount's available for parents. And sometimes the K-12 schools will even announce that. So it may depend on the school, but it's well worth looking into.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
In a galaxy far, far away, in a time long, long ago, I used to be in the automotive parts market. And one of the things that rebuilders would say is that not only is this as good as new, it's better than new because it has been tested and gone through and it did not just come off the line. Does that apply to Apple computers or not? But it has gone through an extra vetting process before it is offered for refurbished sale. That's my comment.
Yeah, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing, since Chris was talking about military discounts and Marty was talking about educational discounts, I'm a person who wanders around a lot, and there are states that do not charge sales tax. And if I have many times purchased things, not just computer stuff, in Delaware, New Hampshire, and Oregon, which are the places I've traveled to that don't have it. And of course, you need to check what your state tax laws are for doing that. I know most cases, if you mail order from there, uh, that's a no-no. But if you're actually visiting there, vacationing there, whatever, you can purchase stuff there. And you should also check your own state laws. In Ohio, if you're buying something for educational purposes, either as a teacher or as a parent, there's a little bit of rigmarole and forms you have to fill out, but you can eliminate paying sales tax, and that's in our case is somewhere around 8%. So that's a nice discount.
Yeah. This last time I had a different experience with the educational store, and this might impact what folks have been talking about in terms of parents and in terms of kids. Usually I go into or I used to purchase, when I purchased things online from the Apple store, I'd go into like a sub. I always went down to the footer to find the link to the education store. And in the footer, I went down this last time, and as I attempted to purchase something, I think they used to have me put a copy of my student ID or my faculty ID in now. Now it's all in a database. So, and this might be true for people who don't come from major universities. And for example, I went in and the first thing it wanted my name. It wanted what school am I affiliated with. I typed in the university I was affiliated with, no problem. Then there's a section, if your school is not on the list, please give us information regarding your school. So I've got the feeling it's kind of much more user friendly than that. When I would buy it at the store, I would always have my faculty ID with me, and so the discount was applied when I'd buy in store. But online, there are ways to be able to do this without the craziness that sometimes all the paperwork requires. So try it out. I mean, if you're the parent of a kid and they don't have a school ID, try it out and try to go in and see what the database, or you're the grandparent of a kid, go in and see what the database will accept in terms of the process of buying something at an educational discount. So the latest being the Neo, which we talked about last week, where there's a $100 discount on a $699 item for the top line of the Neo. So that's a nice chunk of change to pick up. And frankly, I've been using it in an educational setting right now all week long, testing it out. So I don't know if there's anything else for the group to talk about or question or add to. And then this came in from Gary. I will post it up. To get the veteran discount, you need to buy online, not the store. Buy online and pick it up at the store the same or next day. That was his experience and his recommendation. And then Toledo Brit.
Yeah, that's mine too.
I believe you have to have some account with Unidays for educational discount. Not certain if that applies to all students. Charlie shaking his head, no. So yeah, okay. So some information from our chat room listeners. That's always good to get. Yeah, some great information in the chat room from folks. So thanks for joining us. And I think that wraps up this episode of the Old Mac Gang podcast. The refurbished market is one of the smartest corners of the Apple ecosystem, and full retail quality, but not the full retail expense. Apple's own warranty and real savings if you know where to look for the items that you're looking for. So you can set up your alerts. You can be patient and let the deal come to you if you want to do it that way. And you should subscribe to this podcast or this video cast. It's very simple. Just hit the subscribe button or the follow button. And that helps us in terms of getting other listeners and other viewers. You can find us at youtube.com/@oldmacgang. The website is thepodtalk.net. That's our website that has links to this show and a bunch of other podcasts that we do as part of the podtalk.net. Some interesting things. If you like tech, you might also like the other podcasts that are available for that. And our email, if you want to send us an email and maybe a suggestion for a show or a suggestion for ideas or maybe a question that you have for us, the email is thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. So that's a wrap for this show. Thank you guys for all being here and being part of the discussion. And thank the listeners and the folks in the live chat room, but also folks who listen to this podcast or video cast sometime later on. Guess what? You are now part of the Old Mac Gang.